What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be doing a mock overview of the pizzeria and the grand staircase in my city, and at the end of the video we are actually going to be adding some details to this and fleshing out the ground floor. So let's start off with the staircase. As you guys can see, it's all gray. It's pretty monotone, and the reason I did that is I wanted it to kind of blend in. I didn't want there to be too much color or too much going on, so it didn't take away from the other buildings in the city. Kept it fairly simple from a technique. You know, there's some texturing, the ingots on the side, and then one by one round bricks. But looking closer at the actual handrail, this is probably one of my favorite parts. It's actually really simple. It's just some black bar with the lightsaber hilts and then the whips at the end, which give it a really nice detail. Really happy with how this turned out. And you can see to get the angle on the handrail, all I use is the one by one kind of curved bar, and it gives it just the absolute perfect slope. So the way in which I got the actual angle of the staircase was really easy. You can see here, all I did was I just set one side on a turntable and then I let the other side just rest on top of tiles. And this allows me to pretty much change whatever direction I want. Really easy technique, and definitely recommended if you want to do some curves in your city. And here I just did some simple tiling, and you can see I actually used a wedge plate just to kind of bridge the gap on the two. You know, really simple, but I think it's pretty decent. And again, here I continued the handrail all the way up using the whips, so it gives it a really nice sense of consistency all the way throughout. So I added the little sand green statuette here because I really just wanted something to break it up so it wasn't a giant wall of gray. And there's some really fun snot techniques that I used here as well, you can see. And then I also added this little fountain again, just to give it some color, break it up, and who doesn't love a water feature? Now looking at the other side of the stairs, you can see obviously I've got some ivy here and some sand green to kind of show that texturing and a little bit of aging on the stairs. I've got this wonderful light that I was really happy with how it turned out, and the way it kind of glows against the ivy I really like. And it, when this is connected to the pizzeria build, it really illuminates this little corridor and gives it a really nice sense of coziness. Now, if you caught my last mock overview, you heard me talk about using those one by one quarter tiles to hide wires. And this is again what I've done here. It fits really nicely, it tucks it away, and so you really don't even see it unless you get on this side of the build. So moving on down, you'll see I have another little water feature on this side, and my goal was to keep it pretty simple. And so I just use these little sand green cattails as well as the translucent blue sort of power superhero element to represent the water. All right, so jumping into the pizzeria, we'll start here on the ground floor looking at the dark green awning. And here I use some ingots as well as some curved slopes. And this awning was actually kind of cool the way it came about. It's actually just attached with snot bricks. And you can see in the back of the awning here, just have some modified bricks and then using the actual slopes to click into the wall. Now looking over at the signage, I tried to keep it simple, but do something a little different. So I added a little statuette and the slope. I also did a little bit of coining on the corner, and then you can see a little start of the gutter. I like adding gutters in all my builds. It just gives it a sense of realism, and I think it looks pretty nice. Now moving over to what is probably one of my favorite areas actually in my entire city is this little section here, and you can see that you've got the grate on the window and the ivy and the little flowers and the dark green vines, and you've also got this little yellow house with the wooden door. And the way I've done the lights in it was try to kind of make it like cozy and warm and this little tight space, and it just reminds me so much of Italy, and that's what I love. So I'll cover this full connection point in another video, but this tunnel actually leads to a tunnel in the MOC that sits next to this in my city. So this just gives you another angle of that window and that building kind of through the tunnel, and it's just a really fun view corridor. And the technique on this wooden door is actually pretty simple. It's just snot bricks stacked on top of each other with jumpers, and it just really turned out nicely, I think. So moving on to the second floor, this one was a really fun one. So I love the sand green and the contrast with the medium nougat and the gray. I really like the detailing in the middle with those slopes, but my favorite was coming up with this idea for the clothes hanging there. And what I did is I actually used a stormtrooper kind of like waist little piece of fabric. The lime green is from Marge Simpson, and then the blue is from Martian Manhunter, I think. And I think it just turned out nice, and this whole section just gave it some really good color. So as you guys have probably noticed, I like to put balconies in pretty much all of my builds. And this one I really had fun with, trying to do kind of a wrought iron feel using the, what's that place? The roller coaster little bar as well as the whips. was just a really fun build, and it turned out really nicely, and it's really dense and compact in here. And just like things like throwing in all those potted plants and the windowsill, I really like how this turned out because it has a very natural and authentic feel. So looking at the actual terracotta roof of this little yellow building, typically these terracotta roofs are a pain, and this one was actually pretty easy because the way it just kind of sits there using the little small 1x4 panel piece, it just kind of clips into itself and then it just slips right back in. Now looking at the top floor of the pizzeria, you can see number one, it's not finished. It doesn't have an actual proper roof, but I did enjoy adding the red on the green flowers, and it's got some nice detail. I don't love this section. I don't really like the tan over the door. I really do like the beehive piece. There's like a hanging basket. That one was pretty fun. So some pros and cons here. Keeping in the same style as the railing down below, I again use these roller coaster pieces. What I did do that I liked is I used these dark orange slopes and these modified plates with the clips to kind of mimic like a potted plant, sort of terracotta feel. And then I use those little lantern pieces as well and use 1x1 dark orange round bricks to facilitate the same feeling. Now, one of my favorite features of this build are the operable walls that you can open up kind of dollhouse style. This is actually probably one of the very few builds in my city that has an interior. And as you can see, like it's not much of an interior. There's a little pizza oven, you have the little takeout boxes and obviously an Italian flag, little cash wrap. But the other rooms you'll see, open up and they're totally empty. I need to put some stuff in here. I think it would help. But it's time consuming. And here I actually have these lights on the ground intentionally, well, one of them. And the reason I did is because I actually think it gives it a really nice sense of warmth and glow. And so you can see when the light bounces off the medium nougat brick, it just gives it a nice glow and color, and I really like that. So before we jump in and start working on the rest of the build here, I did want to point out that if you guys wanted to see this build from start to finish and kind of how it started to where it is now and all the different steps, definitely check out my Instagram. I have a couple reels and some photos on there that'll give you a better look at kind of where this build has come from and where it's at now and kind of where it started. So definitely go take a look if you're interested. Link down in the description. All right, so let's get building. So over the course of this next little sped up section, I'm going to be tiling out this entire section, adding some fun pedestrian amenities, some outdoor seating. You'll see this tree here. I'll slow it down once or twice just to kind of show you guys a couple of little details and techniques. But I am really excited to get this build finished. This has been sitting unfinished in my city for quite some time, so it'll be nice to finally check this one off the list. So here I did something fairly simple, but I really like these larger plant leaves. They're kind of expensive off of the Pick a Brick website, but they are really fun and they add some really nice color. Added some pink again, just to give it some vibrancy. And you can see here I'm just using the little angled bars that are clear and just kind of tucking them away in this planter box, and it just kind of fit really nice and compact, and I was really happy with how it turned out. So next up is this tree. I wanted something really simple that wasn't gonna crowd the build and take away from everything, but I wanted some good color. And so one of the fun techniques here I kind of came up with on the fly was using those little pins to pin the two plant limbs together, so that way I could get leaves on both sides and get a little more depth to it. And then just here I just used the I think it's like a dragon's neck piece and a tail piece, and it all just kind of worked out. And then as you saw earlier in the video, I used some snot bricks that were attached to a technique brick, and that was how I assembled it and kind of attached it to the base plate there. So I'll give you guys a quick look at the build now that we've got the details fleshed out. And what I'm going to do next actually is I'm going to add some minifigures. I don't typically do that on my builds, but on this one, for whatever reason, it just kind of felt right. So as you guys know, I don't usually add minifigures to my builds because I'm always tinkering with them and I don't want them to get in the way, but I actually had a lot of fun with this one. Not sure if you guys follow Brick Crafts on YouTube here, and he's got a really kind of like a fun whole mafia theme throughout his whole city, and I kind of borrowed that from here. So you can kind of see you have the the guy with the the suitcase or the guitar case. You have suspicious looking guy up on the stairs. You have sort of a police officer looking guy, and then as you go all the way down, you've got the Citizen Brick soprano figures and kind of like the waiter who's kind of like keeping an eye out on everything. So I don't know, it was just really fun. It was fun to add some movement and some activity. Like it made the whole scene kind of come to life, makes the whole build feel a little more alive. So had a lot of fun doing this. Definitely reminded me that I need to add minifigures in all of my builds and just get a little more detailed with it. So I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoy the mock overviews. Definitely, if you guys have any questions or comments about the build or the techniques I've used or anything else you want to see or want to know, leave me a comment down below. And we've got some really fun videos we're working on right now. So definitely hit subscribe if you want to see the future updates, and we'll see you next time.